28th Town Board meeting. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Here.
Councilman McCarthy.
Here.
Councilwoman Noack.
Here.
Councilwoman Inzarello.
Here.
Councilman Lohman.
Here. Okay, we'll begin today. We have one site plan. Mr. Trotter.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of the Town Board, I'm Liam Trotter, Planning Department, and I have one site plan to present this afternoon to the Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review. The application is called Starbucks HPG Properties. The subject site is located on the northwest corner of Indian Head Road and Old Northport Road in Kings Park. It is the same property as the new daycare center that just opened. The proposal is for the construction of a 2,227 square foot food retail building with a drive-through, parking lot modifications, and associated site work. So this will be a Starbucks establishment. There will be a partial double drive-through lane that could hold 16 cars. This proposal did receive variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals, mainly for signage. The applicant has agreed to 7 conditions of site plan approval, most of which are standard conditions, the first being that they obtain a building permit prior to the start of construction. The second condition is that they install a tree preservation fence around all trees on site to be preserved. Third condition is that they obtain a highway work permit from the Town Highway Department for improvements along Old Northport Road. Fourth condition is that they obtain a highway work permit from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works for improvements along Indian Head Road. The fifth condition is that the stormwater pollution prevention plan be maintained on-site for the duration of construction. The sixth condition is that all existing landscaping along the driveway off Old Northport Road shall be preserved and any dead trees be replaced. And the last condition is that all rooftop and ground equipment be screened from public view. And the proposed architecture of the building, it's going to match the new Starbucks that's currently being built on Jericho Turnpike in Comac. So the same exact building.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions?
Ingress, egress is only off Northport Road, nothing on Indian Head.
There's a right-in, right-out on Indian Head Road that currently exists. They're actually, so this is the existing conditions. So there is an entrance and exit, again, right in, right out on Indian Head Road
Okay?
that currently exists. They're not modifying that.
Okay.
And the same with Old Northport Road. There's one curb cut on the west end of Old Northport Road that exists. They're not modifying that at all.
That's staying. it's
That's
not
staying the
modified.
same. Yep,
Can you
correct.
just use your mouse and show me from this photo where it would go?
It's going to be in this area right here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions by the board? No. Okay, the site plan will be voted on at the conclusion of the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you.
Reconvene as Board of Water Commissioners. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, we have the minutes approval from May 7th and award of bid 2434 for water distribution supplies to T. Mina Supply LLC.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello.
Yes.
Councilman Lohman.
Yes. Okay, that concludes Water Authority. We will reconvene as Town Board for the agenda.
Okay, we have the Mississauga River State Park Foundation 5K Turkey Trot on November 28th from 9 till 10. The St. Andrew's Lutheran Church German Festival on September 21st from 10 to 6 with the rain date of September 28th. The Smithtown Fire Department Charity Run, August 10th from 4 until 8 p.m. And the Smithtown Chamber of Commerce 5K Running of the Bull, October 26th from 9 until 12. We have 4 public hearings on the agenda today. 3 are regarding our zoning code and 1 regarding Chapter 112. The first public hearing is regarding Board of Appeals procedure, and Allison Murray from our Planning Department is here to present the changes.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of the board. I'm Allison Murray, Principal Planner for the Planning Department. The first public hearing that's on the agenda today is a proposed amendment that's been recommended by both the directors of the building and the planning departments. It applies to people who have applied to and received a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals to legalize an existing use or an existing structure. The amendment would extend the amount of time that that applicant has to get a certificate of occupancy or a certificate of compliance from the current 30 days to 90 days. And that's simply just because of the pace of being able to get those COs scheduled.
Questions by the board? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard in this public hearing? There being none, I move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
The next public hearing is also on zoning, and it's related to sheds.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. This actually applies to both public hearings number 2 and number 4, so I'll just share the testimony so that the board can apply it to both. Number 4 would be the consideration of amendments to Chapter 112 with regard to building permit applications. The proposed code amendment involves minor modifications to both Chapters 112 and 322 of the Town Code as they relate to sheds. The proposed amendment to 112, Chapter 112, would eliminate the need for a building permit for residential sheds that are less than 144 square feet and less than 12 feet in height. However, all sheds, regardless of their size, would still have to conform with the setback requirements in the zoning ordinance for accessory structures. The Planning Department had recommended the modification to Chapter 322 in order to be consistent with the proposed amendment to Chapter 112. The amendment to Chapter 322 would exclude sheds less than 144 square feet and 12 feet in height from the calculation of the total gross floor area for the lot, and would allow such sheds to be as close as 2 feet from the property line in the required rear yard. The cutoff in the current code is 150 square feet and 10 feet in height, so it's a somewhat minor modification. The amendment will be slightly stricter with respect to square footage and slightly more lenient with respect to the height.
Questions by the board?
No, thank you.
No.
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
And the last public hearing is also regarding zoning as it relates to parking garages.
Thank you. The proposed ordinance amendment would modify the requirements for parking garages in the town. The existing ordinance permits parking garages as an accessory use by means of a special exception from the Board of Zoning Appeals in both the WSI and the LI zoning districts. The proposed amendment would allow these garages as of right in these 2 districts and would allow them in the central business and shopping center business zones as well. The amendment includes a set of criteria for citing such uses, including setbacks to a residence district, and it mandates that any portion of the garage that is above grade be screened from view with a building facade designed to complement or match the architecture of the principal or adjacent buildings, that lighting within the structure not be visible from any adjoining properties, and that the garage entrance shall be on-site and shall not lead out onto a public street or interfere with pedestrian or vehicular traffic. As is the case in the existing ordinance, parking garages would be permitted only as an accessory use to the principal use on the property. They would remain prohibited as a standalone use. And just like to note that this is one of the recommendations that was in the comprehensive plan that the board adopted last month. Thank you.
Okay, questions by the board?
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, I move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes. Number 4 was connected to number 2, so I am going to move to close number 4 as well.
Second.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
On the consent agenda, on the controller, resolutions 1 to 4, and normal resolutions 1 to 6 in the minutes of 5/7/24.
Councilman Lohman,
Hold on. Anyone on the board wish to remove any resolutions from the consent agenda?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Okay, Mr. Clerk?
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
The town board to issue a secret negative declaration determination in the manner of the change of zone petition 2024-01 for Bolger Smith Properties, for a site plan approval by HPG Properties LLC for Starbucks located on Old Northport Road and Indian Head Road in Kings Park. And the last one is to amend Chapter 322 as it relates to zoning for the shed and as it relates to Chapter 112 building construction. All three resolutions are per the memorandum from David Barnes of our Environmental Protection Director.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
Authorize the town clerk to advertise for bid 2444, rubbish and refuse removal from certain private properties deemed to be in violation of the town code. 2447, highway work trucks with various options. And 2441, GPS traffic signal preemption material.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
Award bid 2435 for hearing reporting services to Darlene Devon, doing business as Suffolk Reporter.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
The town board to approve the following: extension of bid 2388 for lumber, plywood, and building supplies with Cider Lumber Company. Extension of bid 2267 for 10-wheel trucks with Trucks Incorporated. A ratification of the assessor's execution of a license agreement with CoStar. A renewal of annual maintenance and support agreement with Springbrook Software for KVS Financial Application Software. A renewal of an agreement for the Highway Department to license fleet tracking software from Samsara Networks. The Superintendent of Highways to enter into agreements with school districts and villages to perform maintenance work and snow removal. A renewal of Arctic Wolf cybersecurity license from CDI. Adopt Local Law 1224, amendments to Chapter 256 entitled Taxation as it relates to partial exemption for senior citizens with limited income. And the last is authorize support for Senate Bill S9106, an Assembly bill allowing St. James Evangelical Lutheran Church of St. James to apply for a retroactive real property tax exempt status for property located at 200 7th Avenue, St. James, and further authorize the sole assessor to accept the application for exemption for the 2023 assessment rolls and grant the exception if deemed appropriate.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
The town board to approve zone change petition 2024-01 submitted by Bolger Smithtown Properties for a modification of existing covenants related to a previously approved zone change petition.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
Authorize the supervisor to execute the following resolutions on a form approved by the town attorney. An agreement with PJT Consulting to provide software development in support of applications related to yearly tax revenue for the town. An agreement with T2 Systems to provide license plate recognition equipment and related services. An agreement with Suffolk County Youth Bureau for adaptive sports and socialization program for operating expenses. An agreement with Pitney Bowes for pre-sort extra program 2024 for pickup and sorting of mail at Town Hall. Medical profession liability insurance policy with Admiral Insurance Company for the Horizons Department. An agreement with Global Fueling System for a one-year term providing professional monitoring services for fuel storage tanks at various town facilities. And the last is an intermunicipal agreement with Village of Head of the Harbor and Village of the Branch and Nissaqua for the installation of traffic signs and application of pavement markings on village roads.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
Approves settlement per the town attorney with Daniel O'Brien in the amount of $1,298.47.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhelm.
Yes.
And authorize amendments to the Uniform Traffic Code to install a no turn on red signal at Meadow Road at Lawrence Road.
Councilman Lohman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Azarello,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack,
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhite?
Yes.
Personnel number 1 to 17, as per the agenda.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Anzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Miller?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilhite?
Yes. All right, reconvening is Board of Site Plan Review. We have one site plan.
We have the meeting minutes of May 7th, and conditionally approve the site plan for Starbucks HPG Properties for the proposed construction of a retail food building with a drive-through and parking lot, previously described by Liam Trotta from our building department.
Supervisor Wilhite?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Miller?
Yes.
Councilwoman Anzarello?
Yes.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes. Okay, that concludes the agenda. We'll move to the public portion. I know we have speakers today. Before we start, public participation is subject to the rules of decorum, which you have on your speaker cards. As per Town Code, Section 76.7, the public portion is for town-related matters only. Any unsubstantiated, unverified, or material false information will be interrupted. Be mindful the 3-minute rule will be strictly enforced. When you hear the tone, you have 1 minute to complete your statement. Deputy Clerk.
Linda Henninger?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been said that rail shipment of hazardous materials will never happen at Town Line Rail Terminal because there's no way of getting the hazardous materials on or off the rail cars. This just is not true. Transloading hazardous materials by Town Line Rail would be quite simple, and there's plenty of hazardous materials used in our area. For instance, Covanta Huntington and the sewer district in Kings Park. Hazardous materials shipped by rail can be packed in drums or IBCs or other bulk or non-bulk packing, packed inside boxcars or strapped to flat cars. Hazmat shipped by rail can also be shipped in rail tank cars. Carlson Corp's waste transload station, which the town can regulate, would be unnecessary to either load or unload these dangerous materials. Anything from a simple forklift and yard ramp to a truck-to-rail or rail-to-truck vehicle will accomplish this on any side rail, and I believe there's 5 of them. Not understanding this is dangerous. With the CCO obligation, Town Line Rail Terminal will be required by law to carry hazardous materials on its line, period, no exceptions. Federal law always preempts state, county, and town law. It would be straightforward and uncomplicated to transload hazardous materials at this site, which is near our homes and our schools. Plans to use a one-track line that runs feet away from homes, schools, and playgrounds is dangerous. If there is a derailment, not only will these locations be in jeopardy, but the Port Jefferson line will also be snarled up for hours, thereby severely affecting commuters. Please look at this reasonably. Railroads balk at transporting hazmat because of the inherent risk and cost. If all railroads could escape their common carrier obligation by simply putting a waste transload facility in another corporation's name, they would be doing it, and hazmat would never be moved by rail. Railroads cannot and do not escape their common carrier obligation to transport hazardous materials by engaging in a shell game. This will end badly for our residents. We're asking that you please withdraw your support of this freight yard. You're literally playing with dynamite if we don't. You guys know me a long time. I'm reaching out saying I know the facts that we're giving you are true, and we hope you guys reconsider your support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Fiegelson?
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Feigelson. I live at 32 Marshmallow Drive, Comac, and this July it'll be 49 years that I'm living there. There is an old adage that zoning makes good neighbors. It's zoning that allows neighbors to live harmoniously and provides protection from having a project like Carlson's Town Line Rail Terminal built adjacent to residential developments. Carlson's property is currently zoned for mostly residential and light industrial uses. We all bought our homes with the assurance from the zoning codes that nothing incompatible with residential living would ever be built in that area. Years ago, you may remember, when Pennsylvania Power and Light wanted to build a power plant on Town Line Road, the town of Smithtown stood enthusiastically, responsibly, and resolutely with the residents to prevent this from happening. It was the right thing to do. Once again, the town board is faced with a majorly inappropriate land use proposal in Kings Park. Carlson's freight yard proposal is totally incompatible with the majority of this property's zoning and threatens the quality of life of all the area residents. It also threatens the other light industrial businesses in that area due to increased noise, traffic, and pollution. It is well known that blight begets blight. And once the freight train terminal and its requisite zoning change to heavy industry is approved, it's likely that other businesses in the area will seek their own zoning changes to allow for further heavy industrial usage. In the end, our neighborhoods will erode, property values will plummet, and our quality of life will suffer. And that will hurt the town. There are more sensible places for a freight train terminal to be built on Long Island. There are places that are adjacent to rail lines, but located in areas that are less densely populated and therefore will not negatively impact residential areas. Some of you were around during the power plant fight and did the right thing then. I was certainly there, my wife as well. You now have the opportunity to do the right thing again. Thousands of homeowners are relying upon you to enforce the existing zoning codes and protect the quality of life for the residents. You can do the right thing by withdrawing your support and joining with the community to make sure this folly doesn't come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Calderon.
Supervisor Werheim and Town Board members, good afternoon. My name is Diane Calderon. I live at 269 Bread and Cheese Hollow Road. As a concerned resident, I am here to express my profound worry regarding the lack of a safe and viable evacuation plan in the event of an accidental release of hazardous materials from the Carlson Freight Train Yard and trucking business being proposed in our area. As a common carrier obligation, Town Line Rail would be obligated to transport hazardous materials if requested. Our community comprises of thousands of residents, students, and workers, faces a significant risk due to the inability of our local roads to accommodate the potential traffic surge during an emergency evacuation. Given the dense population and limited road infrastructure, there is simply no swift way to evacuate. Last year, during the derailment and catastrophic hazmat chemical release in East Palestine, Ohio, they had to evacuate a 2-mile radius. Can you imagine a similar event like that on the Carlson property and the ensuing chaos in surrounding communities? If this happened during the day, there are at least 12 public and private schools in that 2-mile radius that would also need to be evacuated. If this happened in the middle of the night, residents would need to be awakened and evacuated. There are also several group homes with severely handicapped residents and a senior care facility that would need extra help in the event of an evacuation. Our local roads can barely handle our day-to-day traffic. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It is imperative that you stop this problem before it occurs by pulling your support of this freight yard project and actively working to prevent it from being built. Our collective safety should be paramount, and I urge the board to take immediate action to address this critical issue before it is too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
Millie Marchese.
Good Good afternoon. My name is Millie Marchese. I live at 36 Brewster Avenue. In all towns, foresight and consistency matter when trying to achieve the necessary balance between industrial uses and the need to protect existing residential development, preserving single-family neighborhoods, and reflecting factors that affect how residents live and play in their community. Achieving these goals is what determines the quality of life in any community. How successful a town is in achieving these goals determines whether the town is desirable or undesirable to live in. Any discussion of constancy leads residents to ask why this board supported the prohibition of assisted living facilities in most residential districts, including the proposed assisted living facility on the former Bull Run Farm in St. James, concluding they can have a significant impact on surrounding neighborhoods, especially when approved in zones that do not specifically permit them, especially residential ones. The majority of the Carlson property in question is zoned residential and directly abuts the residential community. If an assisted living facility, such as the one proposed 97-bed facility called Whisper Mills in St. James, can have a significant impact on surrounding neighborhoods, then a 24-hour regional freight yard with at least 5 tracks totaling 9,400 feet, 2 buildings totaling 100,000 square feet, and 161 freight car capacity totaling 10,456 feet of train will have a catastrophic impact on the surrounding neighborhoods. Where is the fairness in here? There is none. This proposed regional freight yard will destroy the quality of life of many, many residents that deserve the same consideration the good people of St. James got. Your job is first and foremost to protect the quality of lives of all the families in the town of Smithtown, not a select few. Please retract your support of the Carlson Corp freight yard and take action to prevent this project from coming to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank O'Brien?
Good afternoon. Frank O'Brien, 16 6th Avenue, Kings Park. I've been there for 78 years. I've known the supervisor for at least 68. My only complaint here is I can't believe the supervisor would want to put a freight yard in his own town. We don't need it. We have enough problems, and that's my only opinion of it. I don't need the noise, and the town doesn't need another dump. We have too many of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kenvan? I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Kenvan.
It's close enough. Good afternoon, Supervisor Wernheim and the town members. My name is John Canavan. I live at 34 Glen Lane, almost ground zero to this discussion. And I'm here to represent my neighbors who work hard to live here. I'm deeply concerned and frustrated regarding the proposed construction of the Carlson Freight Yard in our neighborhood. As a homeowner who has resided here for several decades, the thought of such a development is alarming and distressing. When my spouse and I made the decision to invest in our home many years ago, 1998 to be exact, we did so with the understanding that it was situated near a single commuter line track. However, the prospect of the freight yard being built on the other side of my backyard was never mentioned or anticipated, although I did go to many town area buildings here to find out what was there, and I actually stopped myself to see that it was just a sand pit. The idea of the freight yard in such close proximity to our home fills us with dread, and we fear incessant noise, pollution, disruption it would bring to our once peaceful neighborhood. The prospect of a large freight train rumbling past our homes at all hours of the night is deeply concerning, and not to mention the potential safety hazards opposed to our neighborhoods. The presence of the freight yard would undoubtedly have a detrimental effect on the value of our properties. Who would want to purchase a home in our area overshadowed by a large freight yard? I don't think any of you guys would want to move into that neighborhood. Our hard-earned investment stands to be devalued significantly under the project we are proceeding. I implore that you reconsider the decision and allow the construction of, and to allow the construction of Carlson's Freight Yard in our community. The well-being and livelihoods of our residents who have called this neighborhood home for decades should not be sacrificed for the sake of a private company's bank account. There are alternative locations that make this much more sense to build a freight yard. Places that are closer to the LIE and are already set up with rail lines. This would hook into the main line where there are several tracks to choose from. It is your job to ensure that the way of life for our residents is protected. I urge you to listen to concerns of the residents and act in the best interests. We cannot stand idle while our homes and communities are threatened and devalued. In closing, if this was truly the best interest of the Kings Park and East Northport residents and was for ash removal alone, this would be a much smaller project, possibly 2 rails and a dozen cars. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Frank Bucara.
Hi there, Frank Bucaria, 60 Lone Oak Path in Smithtown. This is a totally different thing I'd like to talk about. We've just been informed by nobody that the Marina weight slip has now changed to a 15-year time limit on getting them. I've been on a wait list for 25 years, patiently waiting. As everybody knows, it takes forever to get one. We're finally down to where we could have one in 1 or 2 years, and now I've been informed that I only get it for 15 years once I get it, where this was never a rule in this town, okay? When I got on the list was over 2,000 people when I got on. The list is now down to its smallest number ever. It's 880 people as of the last time, and there is absolutely 0 people on a mooring list. Whoever wants a mooring can get one. I had to wait 7 years for a mooring. I got my mooring 7 years ago, bought a bigger boat, patiently waited all this time. Now, it's time for me. 62 years old, I'm finally gonna get my boat slip. Looking to buy a new boat. I'm not gonna invest in a boat, $150,000, $200,000 for 15 years. It's a ridiculous code change. There's no emergency on boat slips now. Moorings are available to anybody who wants them right now. You just sent us an alert. The town board sent an alert out that moorings are available in Kings Park and in Long Beach. Okay, we're trying to reinvent the wheel. Everybody knows it takes forever to get the slip, and the slip right now list is the shortest amount of time it's ever been since I've been in this town. It's down to 880 people. If it was 880 people when I got on the list, I'd have one for years already. We have members in this community that have been on that boat slip for 40+ years, okay? They're gonna be able to stay on the slip. I'm gonna get mine, get kicked off of it, and they get to still keep theirs. This is not fair. The people on the list need to be grandfathered in for our lifetime appointment to it. It's ridiculous that we're not being grandfathered in. If you wanna change it for new people, that's one thing. Anybody who's on that list should be grandfathered in with the new rules, just like the current boat slip owners are, because the current boat slip owners should be on the same thing. We should start that clock tomorrow. 15 years, you have 15 years. Everybody should play under the same rules. We pay the same taxes. I've been patient all these years. Finally here, ready to get it, and now it's a new rule. I only get 15 years, but other people who want it 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, oh my gosh, we have people back to 1967. They've been on a slip. There's people here, there's 33 people that have a slip in this town that have been in their slip longer than I've been on the list. And they're gonna get to keep theirs going forward for as many years as they want it, and I'm gonna get thrown off in 15 years. Then what do I do with my boat? I have a lawn ornament?
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kathy Bucara.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Bucaria, and I'm a retiree living at 60 Lone Oak Path in Smithtown. First of all, I would like to thank you all for the amazing improvements I've seen at the beaches over the past few years. Long Beach Pavilion and the new bathrooms are beautiful, as is the new Marina building. I was very happy to see the Callahan's Beach project progressing so well, and I must say it is very beautiful. I often brag to others that no matter where in the world I go, My Smithtown beaches are more beautiful and pristine than anywhere in the world. So I thank you for the monumental efforts that must have gone into making these projects happen. I am, however, here to discuss the code change that I did not know was happening, otherwise I obviously would have been here to speak about it, regarding the new permits only being issued for 15 years. I had sent a letter to all of you questioning whether this had truly happened and if it affected me. I explained that I've been on the Marina waitlist for 25 years and that I plan to spend my retirement years voting in Smithtown. I've been happily looking forward to getting a Marina spot in the next few years, as we are currently number 54 on the waitlist. I was shockingly informed in writing by Mr. McCarthy that newly issued permits will be limited to 15 years. As per his letter to me, he stated that this was adopted as a temporary stopgap measure to address the limited amount of slips available to all residents and to address the length of the Marina waitlist. In this letter, he stated that ultimately the board's intent is to lift this restriction. Why is this even being put in if your plan is to lift it? Although you most certainly need to lift it immediately, this response and this restriction are not acceptable to me for the following reasons. The biggest one right now is there's no emergency requiring a stopgap measure, as there is no wait list for a town mooring in either Kings Park or Long Beach. I know this, you know it, because you all got the app alert on May 13th telling us there are moorings available, okay? I got it, you must have gotten it. Okay, we waited 7 years for our mooring back in the early 2000s. Clearly, residents are in a much better situation than they were years ago, okay? I have carefully looked through the active list, and there are, as my husband stated, many people on it for over 40 years. I do not deserve to be subject to this discriminatory code change while they spend 50-plus years on their slips. I remain puzzled as to this code change, and so do others I've spoken to. We implore the board to possibly re-examine the code change and either change it back to no limit, or somehow protect those who've made application to this list so many years ago by grandfathering us in. I thank you for your consideration of this important matter.
Thank you.
George Eusted.
George Eusted, 19 Candy Lane, Comac. I don't understand the board's thinking on this railroad. Because you put in a letter of support along with Rob Trotter and Carlson, you opened up a can of worms that allowed the STB an opportunity to cite this expansion of New York and Atlantic Freight's plan to increase rail on the North Long Island Railroad single track, affecting the entire residential areas of Huntington, Smithtown, and Brookhaven. The STB said it is supported by the local government that gave them the green light to move on this despite the public opposition. The board's decision has put all three towns in serious jeopardy. Smithtown has 116,000 residents, Huntington has 201,000, Brookhaven has 485, with 233,000 of those populations on the Port Jeff line. That's 550,000 people affected. A year ago, Keith McCartney and I attended a brunch that New York and Atlantic Freight was the guest speakers at, and they praised Carlson for helping them achieve their goal of expanding their service area. Their goal is the entire Port Jeff line, and you're helping destroy the lives of all those people. They must move hazardous materials, despite what Carlson says. 110 million tons of hazardous material are moved by rail in the U.S. by train each year. There have been 55,741 train derailments. That's an average of 1,689 per year and an average of 3 a day. That report was June 28, 2023. Many of the derailments have caused people to be evacuated in entire residential areas. People needed to be relocated because of contamination from hazmat spills. How will you explain that to your Kings Park, Fort Salonga, and Comac residents? You need to live 500 to 1,000 feet away from rail tracks in the event of a derailment. If hazardous materials are involved, you need to live at least 10 miles away. When the STB says this is approved, you will lose all say in this matter. So your window of opportunity to try and negate this is shrinking every day if you don't oppose this now. The STB's job is citing rail in the U.S., and only Congress can stop them. They negate all state, county, and local laws. They don't care about our water, health of our public, or quality of life at all. Noise, air pollution, light pollution, if hazardous materials can be handled, and the amounts of diesel fuel that can be stored on property, you have no chance and no say in the matter. If Carlson says he needs 500,000 gallons of fuel for his rail shifter and fuel for the locomotives and his tractor trailers, he goes straight to the STB. He won't even tell you. Article 7 don't mean anything to the STB. There are no plans, no studies done to say how this railroad will affect the infrastructure of the line. Can the bridge built in 1871 handle 130-ton freight cars, 43,000-pound locomotives? Carlson is asking for 161 freight cars. They will be looking to have freight auto carriers that are 96 feet long and can carry 10 to 15 vehicles. One train can carry 340 vehicles. That's 34 train cars. Then 8 regular-sized cars fit on one tractor-trailer. That will require 42 tractor-trailers to move them on Huntington and Smithtown
Excuse me, sir,
roads.
your time is-
That's only one possible commodity. They have done.
Excuse me. Thank you very much.
Bob Semprini.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Semprini, 11 Delmar Lane, in the Candy area, president of the Comac Community Association. A few of you I've known for a very long time. As previously mentioned, Comac Residents Town Line Association, we fought for 5 years against that Pennsylvania company and finally got them off the grounds. 5 years of our time. 5 years of raising enough money to pay for lawyers and so forth. After 5 years, they finally went on their way. One of the reasons why that happened is because what they wanted to do is they wanted to take kerosene from Islip MacArthur Airport, okay, that had a chance of being contaminated, and I know that because I'm an airline captain for 36 years. They wanted to put that on the premises there, right in the aquifer. That is what actually squashed that whole deal. I was going to go to the FAA, and I was going to go to the government, et cetera, et cetera. That ended it. Now, once again, we find ourselves with a gentleman, okay, who does not even live here. He lives in New Jersey. So what he wants to do is sell you a bill of goods that says, because the Brookhaven landfill will eventually, I think it was just extended, before it's going to shut down, or when it's going to shut down, it is true that 100% of all garbage, like the city, is going to be shipped off of Long Island. So the ash, that's what Cavanta, what this gentleman has, he's got the contract to bring it 8 trucks a day to Brookhaven landfill. Now he says, if I don't build my facility, we're going to have a huge problem. Okay, we need a place for someone to carry this ash. Well, it lands up at Winters Brothers, who I met with, and Covanta, who has the contract, has stated clearly, it's only, as far as Covanta, it's just a business deal. We don't have to renew his contract. Winters Brothers says, we'll gladly, we're building our own facility. As long as they say that, there's an opportunity for them to take the ash safely. Instead of going 25 miles to the landfill, they're going to go 12 miles to Babylon. If they're going to accept it, we do not need this, because there's a lot more to this, okay? He wants to bring in lumber. He wants to bring in cars. He wants to bring in aggregate. He wants to bring in asphalt. This is a man's idea of getting wealthy, okay, on the backs of the community. And it's absolutely wrong. You've already got an earful for those who have already represented the communities, and you're going to get more. But Ed has agreed to meet with us. I met with him 30 minutes the other day, and thank you for that, to get the civic associations
Mr. Brini, your time's up.
together.
And yes,
Okay,
we will
hopefully
set,
so.
we will set the meeting up.
Very good, thank you.
Wendy
Thank you.
Haberman.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Haberman. I'm a resident of Comac. I live at 55 Peppermint Road, and I thank you for allowing me to address you this afternoon. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to the train yard that is proposed for Kings Park by Carlson Corp. My family and I have lived in this community for 20-plus years. We are happy here. We live on a nice street with nice neighbors, and we enjoy coming home after working all day to relax at our home, until now. Now we live in fear that a private businessman is getting ready to take all of that away from us, and you are letting him. Imagine waking night after night to the sound of screeching brakes and rumbling trains disrupting a peaceful night's sleep. Imagine the constant flow of diesel trains polluting our air with exhaust fumes and shaking the foundations of our homes. Imagine school buses filled with children driving on our small-town roads alongside huge tractor trailers carrying the commodities that Toby Carlson wants to bring in with his trucking business. Imagine the value of our homes, the largest asset for most of us, plummeting. This is the future for us if you allow this ill-conceived project to move forward. And what I've just described is what will happen if the trains run properly. If there's an accident, it's a different story. Did you know that there are about 3 train derailments daily in the United States? In the last decade, there has been an average of 1,300 derailments each year. Over a year later, Ohio is still cleaning up their mess. Their residents suffer from nosebleeds, headaches. The groundwater is ruined. We don't want this to happen here. This project is guided by one thing, greed. Why else would an owner of a trucking company be interested in building a train yard? And I have to ask, what is this board guided by? The role of a town board is to manage the day-to-day operations of the town government and is accountable for the health, safety, and welfare of all of the residents. Please stand up for this community and withdraw your support from this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Ottaviano.
Good afternoon. My name is John Ottaviano, board members, supervisor. I've lived at 24 Glen Lane with my family for over 30 years in Kings Park. I strongly oppose the Carlson Corp. Town Line Rail Terminal project in Kings Park. In recent years, the issue of water quality in the underground aquifer system has been an important topic for Long Island. Between saltwater intrusion, pollutants from industry, nitrogen from fertilizers, pesticides, and more, the source and quality of our drinking water is under constant threat. It is imperative that we do everything we can to protect the only source of this precious water supply. It is well documented that the Carlson property sits within a federally designated deep recharge area of a sole source aquifer. This recharge area acts as a conduit for groundwater from the surface to travel downward to the aquifer system that underlies Long Island and helps replenish our only source of drinking water. Deep recharge areas are extremely vulnerable to infiltration from contaminants on the surface. The Suffolk County Department of Health created Article 7 of the Sanitary Code to protect these sensitive areas of our water supply. Article 7 severely limits the type and amount of hazardous materials in deep recharge areas. The common carry obligation the Town Line Rail Terminal is applied for from the STB mandates that hazardous materials must be transported by the freight trains if requested. To bring freight cars full of hazardous chemicals to the Carlson site would be in direct violation of Article 7. However, as you are all aware, the federal rail regulations preempt any local, county, or state codes, thus rendering the town, county, or state's codes useless. Article 7 exists for a reason. It protects the only supply of drinking water for Long Island. The town of Smithtown needs to retract its support of this ill-conceived regional freight yard on the proposed site and notify the Surface Transportation Board of this. There are other sites way more suited for a project of this nature that are not located on top of a federally designated deep recharge area and would not pose a threat to the only source of drinking water for all people on Long Island. My children's bedrooms are 150 feet from the rail line. You cannot, in all good consciousness, unless you would put your children and grandchildren in those same bedrooms, allow this to happen. I've lost my neighbor of 20 years. He's moved out. My dearest friends in the world. I don't want to lose my other neighbors, and I don't want to have to leave this town. Please allow us to stay. Please preserve our neighborhoods. It's the only thing you can do in good conscience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Richard Janish.
Good afternoon to the supervisor and the board. My name's Rich Janish. I lived in Smithtown for 33 years in the present house at 36 Marine Drive. Again, I have a slip. I've been waiting list forever for a slip, and it's been, 29 years on that list. I'm number 46 now. I presently own a 30-foot Sea Ray. It's on, and I have a mooring for it, and I was hoping to get a slip in the next few years. I first received a letter, to reduce that, the list. I had to pay $25 for that service, which I thought was kind of odd. But there was nothing stated in that list regarding, this 15-year, limit, for the boat. And I thought, geez, then I actually, saw it when I was checking my list, where I was on the list after it was relisted. And I saw that, I was number 38, and then it bumped to 46. I guess there was some extras that came in late. And I said, oh, good, I'm getting a good range to get that, that slip. Now, that letter was not, that slip indication was not anywhere indicated on that $25 request letter at all, which is probably where it should have been if you're going to do that. And of course, when you don't put it there, nobody knows it's coming up until obviously after it's been voted on and before we can come up and address the board. Now, as a boarder for all these years, I'm hoping the 15-year requirement is ridiculous. When you have a boat, what do you do with it after 15 years? Sell it to the next guy, get your slip? I mean, that's what it comes down to. At this time, I request the board to obviously remove that 15-year limit. I think it's unfair to the people who've already been on the list. I've waited patiently 29 years, like everybody else has waited on that list. And to actually sit there and put that restriction on that is totally unfair. And, what I'm gonna, after 15 years, what I'm gonna do? I'm 62 years old. I guess when I turn 77, I'll just sell to somebody else, what am I gonna do? So I hope you change that. It's definitely not fair, and I think they slipped it under the carpet.
Thank you.
Keith from the Fort Salonga Association. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to preface this with a news article I heard on the way here. And I'm just going to be blunt. Governor Hochul in Suffolk County today said, wouldn't it be a shame in the future if we look back and say that we have done nothing to protect our water? That's from Governor Hochul in Suffolk County. Right? As president of the Fort Salonga Association, I represent upwards of 2,500 families, many of whom live within earshot and airshot of the proposed rail yard, let alone in proximity to the already toxic industrial zone. Personally, my family has had to abandon 2 ground wells due to the plume of polluted, toxic water emanating from the land south of Pulaski Road, both from what was the Huntington landfill and industrial waste. By supporting this rail yard, you in effect are allowing the residents to be dumped on even more than what both you and the town of Huntington have permitted in the past, as well as looking the other way when businesses in the industrial zone do not conform and blatantly violate town laws. Now the town board is in the process of adding to that already toxic area, supporting a rail yard to be operated by a man whom I believe, with his various companies, have violated law in the town for as long as I've been here, since 1957. As a community, residents who have been subjected to a variety of pollutants through the years, you are now in effect telling us we have to endure even more. More air pollution, more water pollution, and more noise pollution. The residents of Fort Salonga find this totally unacceptable and strongly suggest that the town board instead accept the optional plan of installing rail yard at the abandoned Pilgrim State facility,
which is much more suitable for an operation of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morris Weln, W-L-N-E. Morris?
Oh, he had to go.
Sabli Gresh? Sable. Sable? Oh, sorry.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for letting me come up and speak. My name is Sable Gresh. I live at 33 Spartan Lane, Comac. I'm here to express my extreme opposition to the proposed Colson Freight Yard. I really don't want it in our community at all. This proposal threatens the tranquility and charm of our neighborhood and poses serious risks to our quality of life, health, and of our property values. As a longtime resident since '92, I have witnessed the steady decline in the appeal of the areas surrounding the industrial zones, and I fear that the introduction of a freight yard will only exacerbate this trend. The constant noise, traffic congestion, and pollution associated with such facilities will undoubtedly detract from the peaceful atmosphere we cherish and have worked so hard to maintain. Furthermore, the potential health hazards posed by increased air and noise pollution cannot be overstated. Studies have consistently shown a correlation between proximity and industrial sites and various health issues, including respiratory issues and increased stress levels. I mean, you could hear my voice as is. As a community, we should prioritize the well-being of all of our residents above all else. The construction of a freight yard directly contradicts this principle. Moreover, the depreciation of property values that inevitably accompanies the establishment of industrial freight yards will not only harm individual homeowners, but will also undermine the economic vitality of our town as a whole. I truly implore you, our town board, to please reconsider your support for this ill-advised proposal and to prioritize the long-term interests and well-being of the residents that you've been elected to serve. I really thank you very much for your time. Please reconsider your support.
Thank you very much.
Keegan Harris?
Good afternoon. You'll have to forgive me if I get a little emotional, but this is something that definitely has been keeping me up every single night. And I'm a teacher, so I speak publicly all the time, but this is terrible. So I read in Newsday a few weeks ago that they're having the first of what would be many public meetings regarding the potential building of a casino in Nassau County. And while I'm happy that the public will be able to have time to voice their support or their opposition for this project, I'm also reminded of the lack of opportunity that I had to voice my opposition to the potential building of a regional freight yard in my backyard. In fact, the town issued a letter of support well before I even knew that this project was proposed. I keep asking myself, how was this possible? What happened to open meeting laws? Why did I not know about this? Somehow, the town is supporting the building of a toxic freight yard and potentially changing the residential zoning of different areas to satisfy the demands of a property owner who will stand to make over $200 million a year. Robert Trotta, who's supposed to represent me in my neighborhood, has told many of my friends, "Why do you even care? You don't even live on Glen Lane. The only people who will impact are the people on Glen Lane." Well, I live on Glen Lane, along with many of my friends here, and there are 41 children on Glen Lane and Glen Road, including 3 of my own, and my friends' grandchildren, who are there often. And that block is remarkable. I had a flood in my house the other day. A water line burst. And the first person I called on the train ride home was this man right here. And he was there to help me immediately. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that. And I will have to, but I don't know where I will go. This project literally keeps me up at night worrying. When I bought my home in 2020, I did my due diligence. I looked up the zoning of the Carlson property and other properties, and I was reassured that most of that was residential. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that something like this would come about. So where was my notice? Why was my community not told if, like Mr. Trotta said, we were apparently the ones that it would impact? Why is it that the building of my parents' new home in Islip had more community meetings than the building of a regional freight yard in my backyard? On top of the lack of notice, I was forced to take half a day of work today as a teacher preparing my students for the Regents exam because I needed to get here by 2 o'clock to make my voice heard. I'm devastated by the lack of representation that my local government has shown me. And I'm going to skip the rest of this. Please, for the health of my children, please oppose this.
Thank you.
Tina Bassi?
Thank you. I too am a teacher, but I was lucky enough to be able to come here quickly because I teach right in Smithtown. I've been a proud Smithtown resident since 1990. After more than 25 years on the wait list for a slip, I did finally receive my boat slip about a month ago. I signed up for it April 30th. I have always owned a boat. I have initially trailered it and launched it in the town dock. I then put myself on the mooring list, waiting years before I finally got the mooring. Once I had the mooring, I upgraded to a bigger boat, knowing that eventually my name would be called for a town slip. Finally, getting that call was an accomplishment, to say the least. I immediately went down to sign the paperwork, and nothing was said to me at that time, but the next day, Regina did email me to inform of a new policy. There's a now 15-year limit on keeping the slip. All prior slip owners are grandfathered in, and I believe I am probably the very first one to be affected by this change, which was decided at a town meeting just 2 weeks prior to me signing. I have always been a rule follower and abided by town rules. I remember waiting online years ago at the docks at 2 a.m. with my chair to get the mooring. Thankfully, that system was changed to avoid conflicts in the parking lot between town residents. Last year, a new policy required the $25 fee in order to stay on the list. Again, being a rule follower, I asked if the fee would be reimbursed, and they told me it would not be. I followed the rules and shrugged it off. It's only $25. However, now I cannot shrug off this new ruling. As a conscientious and active town resident, I patiently waited for a slip for almost 25 to 30 years. I am a Smithtown teacher who teaches work ethic and values to our younger generations. I raised a son in Smithtown who is an avid boater. He actually bought a house now. He's a town house owner. He's a volunteer fireman and paramedic for the town of Smithtown. We are vested in the town. We have abided by the rules. This new ruling should be applied to everybody at the marina. It should not just be people like me who have been on the list for 30 years. It should be the new residents who directly sign up today versus everybody that has been on the list legally for the last 30 years. I went down to the docks to talk to the harbor master to see my slip. I was so excited. He had no idea the ruling came into effect until after the fact. Okay? I went down to then sign my grandson, who's 5 months old, on the list. We were told then you have to be 16 years of age. Are all the new people on the current list 16 of age or older? I doubt it. Are there only 2 residents per household on that list currently now? I doubt it. I have been on that list for almost 30 years, abiding by the rule. I just respectfully ask for clarification and hope that you can grandfather in, rightfully so, the new people on the list, not the ones that have always followed the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more.
That's it? Okay. I will move to close.
Second. Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes?
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilwoman Izzarello?
Yes.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes. I thank you all for attending this afternoon.